This is your 7 practical tips to recruit volunteers. And so, when I first started at Forefront Church, we had about 40 volunteers and we went to about 200 in just a few months. And one of the things that is absolutely crucial is that you make deposits before you start asking people for stuff. And so, you can't make a withdrawal from your account in your bank unless you've ever made a deposit, right? And so the same thing goes with your volunteers and potential volunteers. Like, a lot of times people are like, you know nothing about them. You're in the lobby and you're like, hey, have you thought about volunteering in the children's ministry? And they're like, in their mind, they're not going to tell you this, but they're like, really? Like, do you even know what my name is? Do you know anything about me? And have you made any deposits at all into me or my life before you start asking me for things? And, you say to people, would you ever ask somebody to marry you if you've never taken them out on a date, right? So the bottom line is like, they come in 1 or 2 times and it's like, hey, welcome to the church. Do you want to work in our parking lot ministry for a year? Do you want to be in the children's ministry for a year? And of course, people are like deer in headlights. So let's talk about some of the deposits that we want to make in people's lives. So like a couple of them would be like a monthly or quarterly team nights, having them listen to a podcast on leadership or anything about it, and then taking them out to lunch and getting to know them. Doing like a potluck or, catering a lunch and saying, hey, I'd love to have you come over to my house. We're going to be talking a little bit about, I want to get to know you. And at that lunch, while they're there, that's when you start talking about, how can we get you plugged in? When I was a children's pastor, my goal was I would take someone out. My goal, and I still do it today. I've really slacked on it in the last, I'd say, year, but for years and years and years, I made it my commitment that when I went out to lunch, I always took someone I didn't know out to lunch. So like after church, I'd be like, hey, I know this is strange. I don't really know you that well, and welcome to the church. And every week I like to take one person out to lunch. I pay for it. It's my treat. You can order whatever you want, but I'd really love to get to know you and your family better. Would you be willing to go out to lunch with me? And I did it every single week. And I haven't done it lately, and I'm going to start back doing it because I've been slacking on that myself. But that's a perfect way to do it. And you want to consider like just holding a volunteer service that's like super, super fun. Like you have to get them excited about it. Like figure something that's super fun. Hey, we're having this night, and all it is we're going to get to know you and kind of learn some of your spiritual gifts and see where it's maybe possible for you to get plugged in. Another way to make a deposit is you check in, we give back. And what it means is that when they check in to volunteer, Facebook is the most powerful social platform in the world. There's over 1.5 billion people on Facebook. There's more people logging into Facebook from 8 to 10 p.m. than watch the Super Bowl. And for you, it's free. And so what you want them to do is you want them to get social media on their thing. So every time they check in, you say, hey, every time you check in, we're going to give $3 to a local charity. And you guys should be giving to local things all the time. I know you guys are. But you just say, hey, we're going to pick, PIN ministry, or we're going to pick this homeless ministry. And every time you check in, so then people feel like, hey, I'm giving by volunteering. And so that's a great way for you to do something like that. And having them post on Facebook and doing some kind of contest. I'll show you this contest in just a second. So one of my friends, really good friends, but we have kind of a group of 16 girls that get together all the time. We call it our Thursday Fun Day group. And what we do is every time it's one of the 16 people's birthday, we like take them out to lunch and we just have a blast. It's super fun. And so one of the girls, we had a text chain and we said, hey guys, it's Missy's birthday. Are you coming? And one of the girls said, no, I can't. I have a Pure Barre class I have to go to. And we're all like, what? Like, can't you go to Pure Barre at like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or any other time? She's like, no, I absolutely cannot miss this class. She said, I'm not joking. She said, for the next 12 weeks, every person has like their name, like Team A and Team B and Team C. And every time you attend that certain class, you get a star behind your name. And when you get the star behind your name, the team that gets the most, they get a free t-shirt at the end. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It struck me so hard because I'm thinking to myself, wow. Because what she said was, I don't want to let the rest of my team down. And I was like, wow, that is so powerful that and what do they win at the end of 12 weeks? They win a t-shirt, So it's not like the prize was that good, but she didn't want to let the rest of her teammates down. So this is a great way to get people to show up on time. You make a chart and you make a contest and you go, one of the things I really had a hard time with sometimes, and I did 2 things to fix it, was getting people to show up on time to the children's ministry. And so one of the things that, at first I wanted to be like, it's not the same as employees. So one of the things that was such a blessing for me is that we work with a lot of 1099 agents, right? And I say, God trained me on how to lead volunteers because leading volunteers is a lot different than leading employees, right? Employees show up at 10 minutes late every day. I'm going to write you up and then you're going to be fired. And then I find someone else. And so you have to lead in a totally different way. And so you've got to create contests and fun things to get them there. And so one of the things I did was I said, okay, we're going to split it up and we're going to see which one came on time. So like I might say, all right, we're going to do a contest between K to 2, 2 to 4, and 4 to 6, and then the median team. And at the end, whoever does it, whichever team are going to come over and we're going to do a little party at my house. But whatever the problem is, the problem has to be solved in a different way. It cannot be, well, I'm going to write you up and now you're not going to be here next week. Now, with that being said, the way that I handled someone who was habitually late and the contest didn't work was like this. So I'd have this conversation and here's what it would look like. And I want to practice that with Vince, okay? So Vince, first of all, I just want to thank you so much for being willing to be a part of the children's ministry. I mean, the kids think you are so much fun and they absolutely love you. And I feel like you're making a huge impact on them. So thank you so much. I did want to talk to you though about why, every week you're kind of coming in at like 9:10 or 9:15. What's going on there? Of why you're late?
Well, it's hard to get up on time, and I've got kids, and I have to get them ready. It's just difficult.
Yeah, and I totally get it. It's hard for me too. But here's one of the difficulties is that we have a lot of brand new people who are coming for the very first time. And so a lot of times they come early. So they might come 10 or 15 minutes early. And so when they see that the teacher's not there, that makes them go, oh gosh, is this the right place for me? Because my kids aren't being taken care of. They don't have someone warm to welcome them. And so I want to challenge you. Would you be willing, because you're making such a huge impact on these new families, and I know you wouldn't want to lose even one family, would you? Like, you'd feel terrible if we lost a family to our church because the teacher wasn't there on time, right? So would you try to work on, I know that we try to get people in at 8:45 because we want to have them 15 minutes. Would you really shoot for getting here at maybe 8:35 or 8:40? Would that be a realistic goal for you to do?
I guess, yeah, I could do that for that reason. Yeah, sure.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Well, thank you. But so now I first told him about how great he was, and then I talked about the why of why it was so important. The second one, and I know you know this, but it's just a great reminder that you have to make sure that where they're serving, that is truly their gift. And so like if you came to me and said, hey, would you like to help with setup and breakdown? And if you really kept pushing me, I might just say yes. But I'd be miserable doing it. I don't like getting dirty. I don't like doing manual labor. I'm very high maintenance. I don't want to break a nail. My hair, I would start sweating. I wouldn't look good for church. I mean, it would just be a terrible fit for me. And so you just have to make sure. A lot of times people are like, here's the hole, I need to fill it. And they're not looking at that person like, is this the right position for Joe? And when people go, you've got to ask them questions to go, hey, do you like this? And not just do you like it, do you love it? So for me, I feel like where I'm gifted to lead is a small group leader. I feel like Vince is the best small group leader I've ever seen. And so I feel like I'm probably 80% as good as he is. And so he just taught me how to be a great one. And so that's where I can serve and that's where I can give back. And so you want to make sure that they don't just like it, that they love it. The third one is to ask with a different mindset and cast the vision of why. This is another perfect example. Let's talk about setting up and tearing down. Like for me, one of the things that my position had to do was I had to help find volunteers to set up and break down the children's ministry stuff. And not only that, I needed people who were really good, because what was really frustrating was they would bring the stuff in and then, like, especially people who were tearing things down, they put things in wrong places. No one knew where it was. So I really needed to get a good team of people doing that. And that was a hard job for me. I had struggles with getting those people. And the reason why is because of my mindset. In my mind, I was like, that's the worst job ever. So like in my mind, I was thinking, that's a terrible job. I feel really guilty about asking anyone to do that. And then all of a sudden I was like, well, I got to have people. It just is what it is. I'm just going to do it. And you know what? That ended up being the easiest job for me to find someone to do. Because a lot of times people are like, they just didn't feel like they had, the knowledge to teach the Bible classes. They didn't feel like, everyone was like, well, I guess I could set up and break down. And I didn't have any problems finding that position. And so the bottom line is you just have to go, all right, I am going to go ask whether I think this is a great job or not. And you have to cast the vision. When I was a children's pastor, I think the studies were 88% of adult Christians made their decision under the age of 18. And now it looks like it's gone up, because I just Googled it and it told me 94%. So what I would do is I would go up to people and I would say, did you know, I'll just say 94% now, even though I think I used 88% then. I would say, did you know that 94% of adult Christians made their decision to give their life to Christ before the age of 18? So talk about what a huge impact that you have to make a difference and reach people for Christ. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I'm just teaching a second grader, or that's not really that big of a deal. And so you have to figure out what is the statistic for your position. So for example, if you're looking for people in the Welcome Center, then you'd go, there's so many statistics out there. I don't know, I'm making this up because I don't know what the statistic is, but I'm sure it's 70% of people that when they feel very welcomed, when they first come to church, that's where they're going to start going to church, right? So now you use that statistic for that department whatever your department is, you figure out how is that truly making an impact. And you want to create a culture where volunteering is just like super, super fun. So, you don't want, if somebody's doing it out of like, oh, I just have to do this, then you got to get them out of there, because you want to make sure that we get people in there who are really, really excited about being there. We want to make sure that you don't ask for a long-term commitment. That is so, so important, because if you ask for a long-term commitment, they're going to be like, forget it. The fourth one is to make your asks really personable. You do not want to ask from the pulpit. You want to share stories. So to me, if I was a pastor, I would never stand on the pulpit and ever ask anyone to volunteer. That's not what I would do. I would never do it. Now, I might teach on spiritual gifts, but I would never do it, because if the pastor stands up and says, blah, 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 you need to give, they're not going to give, because they think that you need to give they're asking with ulterior motives. So what you want to do is like, here's a testimony that you've got to get your volunteers to do. So here's one. I started volunteering in our ministry for children experiencing divorce because I had been divorced myself and remembered what it was like for me as a single parent, struggling with all that's been happening in my life and having very little energy for my children. Every week I see children struggling with anger and fear and leave with hope and peace. How I wish my own kids had been served this way. So that's just a written testimony, but I would make it really, really personal. Like, find somebody that's going to give you a video testimony. There's two things. If I was a pastor of a church, there's two things that I would have videos on every single week. Number one would be a video testimony of how serving has changed their life. And number two, I would have a video testimony of someone sharing a story about how giving changed their life. Okay? So, but it can't come from the head pastor. It has to come in video testimonies. Okay? Have you ever heard of a group who went on a missions trip and they served somewhere new, and they call it the Helper's High? And they come back and they say, I received so much more than I gave, So that is a really, really big one. And then the number 5 is let the Holy Spirit guide you. So I would consider fasting and praying. I just wrote a new book called Fasting. It's going to be out pretty soon, but I believe that unfortunately people have really gotten out of the habit of fasting. And the Bible says, when you fast. It doesn't say if you fast. It says when you fast. And so I would fast. And one of the things that I would do at churches in the lobby, I would get there and I would pray, and I would literally say, okay, God, who do you want me to ask to volunteer? Do you see what I'm saying? So you're basically saying, you're standing in that lobby and looking around, and you're asking the Holy Spirit to say, who should I ask to volunteer for my ministry? And God will guide you, and he'll say, hey, this is the person. Number 6 is to avoid burnout. Constantly asking your people, what are you good at? What energizes you? What are you bad at? What drains you? What makes you passionate? And learning what those things are. Because retention is just as important as recruiting. So you want to make sure that they're in the right spot. And then finally, number 7, have them come to a trial meeting and offer an opportunity to get their feedback and ask their questions. So like say, all I want you to do, I'm only asking you for 1 hour of your time. Would you be willing to do this for an hour? And then afterwards, you ask them these questions. Was it meaningful? Was your emotional energy higher or lower or just the same? If their emotional energy was to the same or lower afterwards, that's not the right place for them. Did you enjoy this area? Can you realistically fit this into your schedule? And one of the things that's really nice is you ask people to volunteer every other week, and then you say, now, I'm only signing you up for every other week. If you absolutely love it, love it, love it, we can kind of add you in when someone's out. But don't burn them out. The thing is that participation fosters ownership, friendship, and growth. And that's what we're trying to do. So, there's a study out that retired men live 2.5 times longer if they're involved in any kind of volunteer work. And so we want to try to get people in there and going. So that's all I have. But now I want to ask you guys, and I want to have some discussion questions and just talk about what are some ways that we can make deposits into future and current volunteers. So now I just want your feedback. You guys can just make sure you unmute when you talk. And what do you think we can do to get people more involved?
Some things as simple as sending out notes afterwards to team members saying, you did a great job. Thank you so much for serving today. You knocked it out or whatever. So
that's great.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send over to Vince a $25 gift card, and one of you lucky people are going to win it. So I want you to say your name, and so every time you have an idea, I'm going to give you a point. Okay? So what was your name?
David.
Okay, so that's one for David.
So we need to go really fast. So we're going to go fast. You're going to say your name and say your idea. So, all right, who's next? And you can keep coming up with them, whoever has the most. So David, you can keep going.
Lunch, as you said.
Okay, good. Keep going.
Jacob, get other volunteers to promote or talk positively about the experience.
Yep, love it. What else?
You could get other volunteers to bring friends. Like, they bring friends. That's pretty effective.
And this is Tony?
Yeah. His name is Jacob.
Okay, great. What else?
Samantha says, I'm at Starbucks. I like to have coffee. I am at Oh, she already said that. She can't talk because she doesn't have a...
Okay, just write it down then. Write it down, Samantha. Write down your idea and we'll still count you. All right, who else?
Talk on behalf of other volunteers who can't speak for themselves.
Okay. Any other ideas? Make a big deal out of the first serve. That's a really good idea. All right. What else? What I'd like to do is practice. So far, David's in the lead. So who would like to? David. What's your department that you're in charge of?
Creative arts.
Okay. And I'd like for you to do a call with Jacob, and I want you to pretend to volunteer. And Jacob, I want you to make a lot of excuses of why you can't do it. Okay.
So Jacob, I was wondering if maybe you might have some time within the next couple of weeks to get out and grab a cup of coffee or maybe grab lunch after services. I know you come to second service. But if you're willing to wait until after third service or come to third service on one of the days, it'd be great. I'd love to just get to know you and, I don't know, find out what makes you tick. I see you talking to a lot of people in the lobby, and I'd just like to get to know you.
Yeah, I'm in for that. What works for you?
How about lunch at Chipotle after service 1 week from Sunday would be great for me.
Check my calendar. Yeah, I can do that.
Sweet. Well, it's on me. Order whatever you want. I just want to get to know you. If you want to bring your wife with you, you can do that too. I know that she's a talker.
That's awesome. And I love what you did right there, because see, you really just, that initial call really needs to be all about a deposit. Like, I want to get to know you. I want to find out what's going on with you. And then at that lunch, let's have 2 other people do what after, let's say we've really gotten to know them now, right? And now we're going in for the close of asking them to volunteer. So let's get 2 people to do it. How about Tony can be one, and who else wants to do it?
I vote for Dalton.
All right, Dalton. All right, so Tony, you're at lunch with him, and you've gotten to know him already. So now we're coming in for the close of what we're gonna ask him.
Can you have Dalton close me?
Oh, Tony, you're closing me.
Push it around. Have Dalton close me.
All right, Dalton, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Come on, Dalton.
Well, Tony, you seem like an awesome guy. I really appreciated having Chipotle with you. You ordered great. The chicken salad looked awesome. It was great. I'm wondering, I'm a part of the creative arts. I'm wondering, every Thursday we meet and we have volunteers help with our worship. And you told me that you play bass. I was wondering if maybe I could fit you in maybe once a month, if you'd be interested.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look at my calendar, but I think that sounds reasonable.
That's awesome.
That was really good. The only thing I would change with that, Dalton, I loved everything that you said, except for you already started telling him that he was going to be committing to once a month. So on that close, the only thing you're committing to is that first meeting, right? So then at that first meeting, that's when we're going to take it to the next level. And then we're going to talk about the questions we're going to ask on that next one. You with me? So on that first time, we're not asking them to commit to once a month. We're just asking them to try it one time. And then we're going to ask a series of questions.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. So
Can
now,
you hear me, Chantel?
yeah,
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can.
Hey, would that have been a good opportunity for Dalton to also to share the why of why we do worship for teenagers on Thursday night?
Yes, exactly.
8% stuff.
Yes, that's where you find the statistic that talks about how important worship is, and how much that main service makes an impact of people giving their life to Christ. Yes. Love it.
I'm risking my life to participate. I just want you to know.
Okay, so now we're going to do one more. And this is the list of questions that we're going to, this is after he's already done the first one, right? How about we'll do A King to David Parker.
Hey, Dave. Good job today.
Thanks, Alicia.
Killed it. So what do you think about everything that went down today?
Oh my goodness, it was like a whirlwind, from rehearsal to production to, I don't know, I'm just exhausted right now.
Are you proud of yourself?
Are you proud of me?
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you.
Well,
Dave.
then good. Yes, then I'm proud of myself.
You did a great job. It's totally something that you grow into, but it happens with practice, right? We get better with practice.
That's true.
Is this something you'd be interested at getting better at and continuing to grow in?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the opportunity, and yeah, I'd like to do it again.
Awesome.
If you want.
Come back every week after this.
Okay, so the only thing on that is we want to make sure that we're telling them. So like as soon as he said, I'm exhausted. So one of the things I would say is to him, we want to make sure, I want you to know, David, that it's really important for me to plug you in somewhere where your emotional energy is higher after you're done. And so maybe, that doesn't mean that every week you're just like, oh my gosh, boo, 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 you know what I mean? And some things are exhausting, but you still I want to make sure that this is where God wants you and that you really love it. So if you just are like, oh, it's okay, that's not what I want. I want to find a place for you that you absolutely love serving in. So do you guys see that? So because really what she just did was like, okay, well, you're exhausted. You didn't really like it. Great. We'll see you every week for the next year. And so now, right? Like that's exactly what people do. And then they wonder why they don't have any volunteers, because that wasn't the position that they needed to be in. And that's not where God, and I know you were joking around, but you see what I'm saying?
You guys all following me on where we're going with this, right?
I was actually thinking, even when Dalton was doing the ask for the bass player for youth group, that another thing that we could try to make a practice of is sharing with the people that we're talking with. I would love to have you involved in my ministry. And I know you said you play bass guitar. I mean, that would be a great fit for us. But what would you think about doing a first serve and checking it out? And if it's for you, awesome, I win, But if not, I want to help you get plugged in, somewhere that really fits for you, because I know that serving is one of the number one ways that we grow.
Yes. Yeah. And they need to feel
Like you aren't just putting a circle in a circle hole. You truly care about them and want to place them in a place that's going to grow them closer to the Lord and not drain them. Like, even though I will tell you, like, I write my own Bible studies. And so like, it's exhausting. And sometimes after I'm done with Bible study, I might be tired. So it's not that you're not like tired after you do it. I mean, I might be exhausted, but I know that's where God wants me. And I'm using the gifts that he's given me to make that an amazing study. So, all right, well, that's all we have today. Does anyone have any other questions?
What was number 4, Chantel?
Let me go back and look. I'll send you this in a video, and I'll also send you the PowerPoint so you guys can go back and look. But number 4 is make your asks personal, and don't just ask from the pulpit, and share stories. So like, because what happens is a lot of times, like, the pastor will stand up and be like, oh, or even videos, like they'll share the videos, but no one asks them. You guys should be having a goal, literally. Like, if I was Vince, what I would be saying to every one of you is, this week, as part of your job, you are going to be required to meet 3 new people every single week, to either take them to coffee or do a one-on-one or get with them on the phone. And then I would also be asking maybe like 3 in-person videos, 3 in-person meetings, and maybe 5 or 10 text messages and calls every single week. It's the only way that you can grow is by getting and leveraging volunteers. So there shouldn't be a week that goes by that you don't have at least 3 people that you don't know that you're getting in front of to get plugged in. And here's the thing. If you're in part of the worship department, like what I would be doing if I was Vince, I'd be having a contest between you guys. So when I meet with people, I would say, okay, we're going to have a contest of who can recruit the most volunteers. And just because you're in worship, like, you get credit, right? So David, what's your department?
Creative arts. So everything worship, service,
okay.
production.
Okay, so if you hire somebody in the children's ministry, that still counts as your recruit. Make sense? Because what you're doing is you're meeting people and trying to find out what they're good at. You don't want to necessarily put them in your department. If you wouldn't want me in the singing department, I can tell you that right now. And God's not schizophrenic. He doesn't lead people into an area where they're not gifted in, right? All right, well, I will send over the notes, and I will send over the video because I recorded it. and hopefully you guys got a lot out of it.